Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome to the channel and to my July reading wrap up. So I hope you all had a good reading month in July. Mine wasn't too bad. For my wrap up today, I'm going to have the usual stats first and then I'll get into the books, so timestamps are below if you want to skip this little section. I had 6 books that I finished in July though, which gave me a page count of 2,470, takes me to 16,917 year to date. For the average page count, it was a bit down. I had a couple of shorter books in July, so the average for the month was 412, so I've slipped below the 500 page average. Year to date it's now sitting at 493. The average rating was actually pretty spot on for the year though. It came out in July as 3.92 and the average year to date is still sitting at 3.93. For the series, I've now started 15 different series this year that I intend to continue with. I've got 2 series now that I've finished, so the 7th month in the year gives me my second finished series. I've got 5 that I've read the first book of and decided I'm not going to continue and move on to book 2 of. The series that I'm in the middle of at the moment, of which there are 40, I'm up to date with 21, and the day since the last 5-star read right at the end of last month is therefore 31. So moving on to the books, and first of all is one of the new series that I started this year. I read King of Ashes by Raymond D. Feist. This is book 1 of the Firemain saga. Feist is an author I've read a lot of. He might actually be my most read author in terms of the number of books, because I've read his very expansive Rift War cycle, which is, depending on how you look at it, because there's a book here and there that's been split into 2, but it's about 30 odd books. I generally enjoyed them. This one was really nice for me because it took me back, basically. It took me back into his writing. I've not read any for a while since the Rift War cycle finished, but I really enjoyed this particular series. There are some good characters in here. I really enjoyed kind of building, kind of growing with them, getting to know them as they moved around the world and performed various objectives they were going on. Difficult because I don't want to give too many spoilers, but there are kind of little missions that a couple of our characters go on, and it's nice to see that because they're also kind of training exercises in a way, so you get that kind of element with it as they're exploring the world, and you're learning about the world as a result of that. I like how it was kind of a building book. There wasn't a lot of kind of really high level conflict. You could see that it was more, the conflict is going to be over the course of the 3 books of a trilogy, rather than cramming it into one book to give kind of an explosive start. So there was plenty of action in here, there was plenty of excitement and intrigue, but it wasn't too much, and it was really nicely kind of building rather than throwing you properly in at the deep end. I say that we do start off with a battle, but it's kind of an extended prologue really, which builds towards where we spend most of the book here. Had a really good time with it. I'm continuing the series. I'm already in August reading book 2 because I'm going to look at book 2 and 3 over the next 2 months to complete this one kind of back to back. This one was very close, but not quite 5 stars. I gave it 4.5. Next book I finished was a continuation of a series. This is Rise Red Kingdom, which is Burn Red Skies book 2 by Kirsten Espinosa Rosero. I enjoyed book 1 and I enjoyed book 2, although some of the complaints I had with book 1 were not necessarily just in here, but they were probably expanded on in here, which is a bit of a shame. I was very confused for large portions of it, if I'm honest, especially around the relationships between some of the characters. They are on opposing sides, but they're helping each other out. They are kind of friends and mentors, even though they're, as I say, they're on opposing sides. So there was a lot of confusion, and there were a couple of characters who were known by 2 or sometimes 3 different names, and occasionally we'd be talking about one of these characters or talking with one of these characters, and it actually took me a while, especially at the start of the book when I was getting myself back into it, it took me a while to realise actually we're talking about this character who I know by their more kind of common name, the one that they're referred to the most in here. So it was a little bit confusing for a couple of portions as I was reading the book. I enjoyed it overall though. I enjoy the world. I like the overall idea of it and where we're going. I like that we've got a I don't know if mute is the right word, but certainly mute in terms of she can't talk, one of the main characters within here. I like the way that we can still have interactions with this character and she still has a voice, so to speak, so that was all very well done. I thought there were some really good scenes and some good revelations in here, although again one of them did slightly confuse me because there was a bit of a, I guess, time jump. I thought we were on one timeline, but it turned out we were actually, for a portion of the book, on a secondary one. But I like the way that was revealed, and it did give me a bit of a surprise, so I thought it was well written in that sense. Overall, definitely enjoying the series. I do want to continue it. I've no idea about book 3 in terms of where it's going to be, where it's going to take us, but when that's going to be. But I will be looking out for it when it does come available. So this one was good but not fantastic. I gave it 3.5 stars. From an SPFBO finalist, or the follow-up to an SPFBO finalist, we've got a winner. I think it was in the same year actually, SPFBO 7 was it? But this one is Reign of Ruin by J.D. Evans, and I already read the opening chapter of this one because I did all of the opening chapters for the finalists in the year this one won, and it was very intriguing. A different setting for me. It's kind of an Eastern or Middle Eastern, I guess, setting, and you've got sultanates and sultans and sultanas and so forth forming the political elite here. It's a very different book for me because you do have the political side of it taking precedence, but it's more about the, I guess, succession. You've got a daughter basically who the council are trying to prevent taking power because she's female basically. That's what she wants though. She wants to prove that she is capable and that she should be the one to succeed to the throne basically. And then on the other side of it you've got a powerful noble or prince who is kind of courting her. I guess it's more of a political arrangement that they've set up rather than the council have set up because she wants to forge her own path on that. And they are two very opposing people, two very opposing kind of sets of ideals and powers, because there is magic involved in here. So the story is kind of about how they forge a path as one with those two very different kind of ideals and abilities and so forth. So it was very interesting to see how they were able to come close to each other, to start to really learn about each other and trust each other, and how that obviously drove the story forwards. There were some really good bits in here. I like how our male main character has got this very destructive power that certainly in some parts of this world he would be executed for possessing basically, and he undergoes tests where he's trying to prove his worth, but he doesn't want to use his power, A, because it will be exposed and can cause trouble, but also he's very honourable and he would see that as kind of cheating, a way of getting through these tests really easily. He could just waltz them basically, but he doesn't want it to go down that way. I thought that was good and it showed a real kind of interesting aspect to his personality, but it also led to some really exciting and intense scenes. So overall this was a really good read. I definitely enjoyed it. I'm not sure when I'm going to move on to book 2 and onwards in the series, but I do intend to at some point. This one I gave 4 stars to. Then I had some space, some capacity in my month for a couple of short audiobooks because, well, first of all, I thought there's a little bit over a week, maybe it was 10 days left in the month. Let's go for a short audiobook that I can just cover in the remainder of July. So I went for Jereg by Stephen Brust, which is one of the books in my 2024 reading plan. This is book 1 of the Vlad Tolstoy series. There are, I think there's about 14-15 books in this series, but they are relatively short, so it's not too bad. This one was kind of a very different one because it's a fantasy noir kind of setting, but it's also told almost as a collection of, not quite short stories, but a collection of reminiscences almost. The book opens up with a line where he compares a breath of cold wind to a knife on the back of his neck and says he has experience of that, and then goes on to talk about a couple of stories from his past where he's had a knife on the back of his neck, basically. We progress through those and start to learn about our main character, Vlad Teltosh, as he's growing up, basically as he's becoming this master assassin slash restaurateur. His father owns a restaurant, he works in there, and then he has magic, he has these abilities that he's learnt as he's growing up that allow him to become this really sought after assassin. So he kind of works out of a little office while he's got this restaurant as well, and he's doing assassinations and thievery and so forth. So it's kind of a little bit strange, but yeah, we do go on these various missions, and the tone of it and the kind of slightly urban setting with this office that he works out of does definitely lend itself to that kind of noir comparison there. It was a very interesting story, although I felt it was slightly disjointed just because of the way it was kind of this series of vignettes. We had one kind of major kind of play at the end of the story, which was a bit of a heist, and you had all of the planning, the forming of a team, what everyone's job's going to be based on their specialities, running through test runs to make sure they can do everything that they need to do, and then actually going forward and trying to pull this plan off. But it kind of, although it was really interesting to me and I did like that, it kind of seemed a little bit out of the blue just because of the slightly jumpy nature, going from story to story, almost as if it was individual stories rather than one cohesive plot from start to finish of the book. So I guess slightly disappointing in that sense. It wasn't quite what I was looking for. It was a very interesting one. It was one that I've been looking forward to reading for a long time, because I keep seeing this one come up on various recommendation threads, largely on Reddit, when I was browsing years past looking for new, almost classic fantasy based on at least when the first book was written. So yeah, I'm glad that I experienced this one. I've decided not to continue the series though, because I feel like I got what I wanted out of it, but it didn't really make me want to kind of dive into the next book either next month or any time really soon. So yeah, it was slightly disappointing in that respect, but I'm glad that I read it all the same. This one I gave 3.5 stars to, but because it was quite short, I ended up still having a little bit of time left at the end of the month. So I did the same again. I went for a shortish audiobook to wrap up the month for me. So I went on to Palom, which is another book off my 2024 reading plan. This is book 2 in the World of Lunaria by L.L. McRae, and another one that I really enjoyed. I had a great time with Marauder, book 1 in this series. Book 2, I felt, maybe because of what happened in comparison to what happened throughout book 1, and also because it was a shorter book, it kind of felt a little bit like a transition book. Now this is difficult for me to say because I haven't read the third book yet, but it just felt that way based on where we left off at the end of Marauder and probably what I'm expecting now in book 3, which is Amara, I believe is that one. As I say, I enjoyed this one because I love the world, I love the characters, I like that you've got dragons, you've got sky pirates, you've got kind of everything you could wish for in a really good adventurous fantasy series. It's all here, and I love the writing that L.L. McRae gives us. The characters in here, I think this was one really for the character growth. Various of the main cast had setbacks that they had to overcome, so that's kind of where I see this one as a transition novel between book 1 and what I expect from book 3, as they're moving towards this overall goal, but they're kind of almost sidetracked. They go off on these individual little side quests and face these challenges, these barriers that they have to get over and to grow in order to get over them, or as they are surpassing them. So I thought it was really good, although it didn't quite reach the heights that I had from book 1. It was still a really great addition to the series. I'm having a great time with it overall. Looking forward to book 3 whenever I do move on to that one, and then onwards to Issa is book 4 in the series, and the rest of it is still being written. But book 2, Palom, I gave 4 stars to, because I had a great time with it. And then the last book that I finished right at the end of the month was Mother of a Bond by E.C. Greaves. This is Vaishivka book 3, so this is a finished series, the second one that I've had, only the second one that I've had this year. I had a really good time with this series. It's very different. It's a very, I was going to say anti-human book. It's that's not right. It's a book that has basically no humans in it. They are all various types of fae, and it's a very kind of Slavic-inspired kind of cast, I guess, of fae, with Kikimora and Domovoy and Soglav and other things that I could probably also mispronounce, but they're given their own kind of little twist in this world. Various of them are as well. I like a book that's got the invention to do that. It doesn't just rely on our normal main characters are human, and you've got, you know, your elves and your goblins and your dwarves and things like that. This one, it was all very different. I like overall the progression of the story. I didn't have as great a time with book 2, but this one kind of got us back towards where we were with book 1, so it was a good ending for me. It rounded it out. I think it was a very satisfactory ending to the series as well, which is obviously a bare minimum. It's what you want. You don't want to be disappointed when you put down the last book in a series. I like how we've got, after everything is said and done, you've got that kind of falling action. You've got a couple of chapters at the end where you can sit back and reflect and kind of count your losses, really, and who's left standing and what you're going to do next, and kind of react to what's been done. But then there's also, right at the end there, the kind of the inkling of a next adventure to come. So maybe at some point we'll see some more from this world. I know the author keeps teasing an omnibus edition, and you know, it's a good place to add an extra little epilogue or short story or something along those lines, if that's the plan to do. But overall, I really had a great time with Daughter of the Beast. It is my favourite of the series, but Mother of a Bond, to wrap up the series, was also pretty good, and I gave this one 4 stars. So I thought that was a pretty good month overall for me. I had a couple of books that I wasn't expecting to read at the start of the month. I do like to have that, and to give myself a bit of freedom there when I finish my plan to pick up something new. But yeah, overall I had a good time with the books that I did pick up over the course of July. Let me know in the comments down below what you read last month, what were your highs, and if you had them, what were your lows as well. I'll hopefully see you in the next video sometime soon. Until then, as always though, take care of yourselves, read some good books. Bye for now.